Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today, as usual. And, Jim, we start with the good and some news that we didn't realize happened while Pope Francis was in the United States, and specifically in Washington. His few days in the United States were considered by many on the left to be a triumph of their ideas and a validation of their political views, which is always, of course, a dangerous thing when the Pope's involved. They love the fact that he talked about welcoming all immigrants and reaching out to the refugees and addressing climate change and redistributing wealth. They thought this was a home run for their political perspective. And then last night, the needle got ripped off the record because it turns out that secretly, at the Vatican Embassy while the Pope was in Washington, he met with Kim Davis, the embattled clerk of Roane County, Kentucky, who, of course, went to jail for refusing to issue marriage licenses in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision on the definition of marriage. And according to Davis's attorney, Matt Staver, he very much was supportive of Davis's stand on conscience, told her to stay strong. The Vatican is confirming the meeting took place, won't comment on the details of it. So, Jim, just when the left thought the narrative was set on the visit of Pope Francis, they get thrown a major curveball here.
And I am finding this kind of delightful, less out of a particular love for Kim Davis than for the fact that all of last week, Pope Francis got glowing coverage. And to read most media sources, you would think he was trying to rewrite the Catechism of the Catholic Church to completely align with the Democratic National Committee's party platform. And that's not really what Catholicism has been in the past, and it's not what it is likely to ever be in the future. There are times where the Catholic Church's doctrines and beliefs and viewpoints are going to align with the Republicans. There are times they're going to align with the Democrats. But because he hugged the illegal immigrant girl, and because he met with Castro and talked about how great it was, the embargo was lifted, and he talked about climate change, a lot of folks said, aha, this is a man of the left. This is someone who is on our side. What a refreshing change from those old right-wing popes, et cetera. Now, and then he meets with Kim Davis, who basically is about as hated a figure on the left as you could possibly find. And I think that's fantastic to kind of just refute this very easy and I think false narrative. Obviously, there are days I'm going to really like what Pope Francis is doing. There are days I'm not going to like it. But I like the fact that he's challenging people and he's not easily shoehorned into this preferred media narrative. And I think also that maybe people who have thought about Kim Davis as if she's got fangs and horns and demonized, recognize, maybe she's got a point. Maybe she's got a right to religious liberty. And even if we want to dispute exactly how she went about it, it's not a good idea to have the state forcing people to do things that violate their conscience.
All right, on to the bad martini now, and to virtually no one's surprise who's been paying attention, the Russians launched airstrikes in different parts of Syria. This was expected, maybe not this soon, but based on how President Putin and President Obama addressed Syria this week at the United Nations, it was only a matter of time. Putin saying it had to be done. You got to stop ISIS, and to do that, you've got to prop up Assad. The Russians, of course, like him. They don't see him as odious nearly as we do. Obama somehow thinks you can defeat both at the same time, even though they're fighting each other. So the airstrikes launched, and even before that happened, Charles Krauthammer over at Fox News pretty well sizing up what Russia's really up to by intervening so extensively in Syria.
The real story this week is what happened at the UN, where Putin essentially stepped in and took over Syria. He's now the leader. We had said 2 weeks ago, I think it was the Secretary of State, who said that the buildup of the Russians in Syria was doomed to fail. 2 weeks later, we have not only accepted it, we welcome it as a fight against ISIS, and we concede essentially that Assad will stay under the protection of the Russians. This isn't about the Russians taking on ISIS. This is about the Russians taking over Syria and keeping Assad as a client in place. That's what happened even as the administration sputters because it has no idea what to do.
And so there you go, Jim. Is it just a matter of Obama once again stumbling with his Syria policy and Putin comes up with a solution that Obama and Kerry say, okay, kind of like the getting rid of the weapons of mass destruction, or is this a willful abdication?
I think we're now watching the end of U.S. influence in the Middle East. For a lot of people who said that was what was needed to make the world a better place all through the Bush years, I hope you're happy now. Two things that are worth noting in that, in what you mentioned there. It's worth reemphasizing. Putin is not fighting ISIS. The places he is bombing right now are not where ISIS is. He is fighting the anti-Assad forces that are, to the extent there are moderates out there, I'm making air quotes as I say moderate, but it's not the bloodthirsty killers that he's going after. It's possible at some point Russian forces will target them, but Russia's goal is not to fight ISIS. Russia's goal is to ensure their client Assad is the one who's left standing when all this is said and done. And oh, by the way, according to NATO observers and what they're seeing in the first bombing runs, apparently they've been televising it, Syrian state television showing it, they're not using targeted munitions. They're not using smart bombs. This is basically old-fashioned, just drop bombs on them. I think we can all expect these number of civilian casualties to go higher in the coming weeks. You wondered how a bad situation could get worse. Greg, it's worse.
They always find a way to make it worse.
It's innovative. It really is groundbreaking. You got to give them credit. So.
All right, on to the crazy martini. And after that particular bad martini, we could use a little levity. Jim, I don't know if you had this issue with your parents growing up. I certainly did not, but I know a lot of kids do, where you feel like your parents and other people around you want to decide things for you, maybe where you go to college or what you want to do for a career because you're not making up your mind and that sort of thing. I wonder if South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy feels that way today, because as this leadership fight for to replace John Boehner and then Kevin McCarthy at Majority Leader, if he is elected Speaker, there's a lot of people trying to draft Gowdy for Speaker. And as you point out in the Morning Jolt today, he has no interest in that. Then there was a draft Trey Gowdy for Majority Leader effort. He says he has no interest in that. And so John Fleming, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, was on C-SPAN, and he explained why he doesn't think Trey Gowdy, who would otherwise be a great choice, is interested in those jobs.
Trey wants to go back to South Carolina, and God bless him for that.
Is that what Congressman Trey Gowdy told you and others, that he plans to leave Washington soon and go back to South Carolina?
At the end of his term, yes. He plans to go back home, and he wants to finish his work on the Benghazi Special Committee. But he loves South Carolina, he loves his family, and he wants to go back and spend the rest of his life there.
Gowdy's office immediately responded to that by saying Congressman Gowdy hasn't decided anything about 2016 yet. So, Jim, you almost feel like he's in the back room saying, let me make my own choices, people.
Yeah, we also should point out some late-breaking news here, Greg. In addition to his statement that the erroneous, seemingly, statement from the congressman that he plans on resigning at the end of this term, Politico's reporting is that John Boehner secretly met with Trey Gowdy, encouraging him to run for Majority Leader. So in light of these two rumors, Trey Gowdy is now Schrodinger's cat. He is simultaneously relieving Congress and going to be the next Majority Leader at the same time. In light of, as I mentioned in the Jolt, the fact that he's being mentioned as the ideal guy for every leadership position, one of two possibilities. One is there's a cloning program at work, and that Trey Gowdy we will have a future will be full of Trey Gowdys, and he'll be handling every job for the Republicans. And I kind of like that. That sounds pretty good. And he'll be able to finish his work in the Benghazi Committee, which I thought was kind of important. Stop promoting the guy. Let him finish what he's doing. My other suspicion is that Gowdy is now being mentioned in connection to so many jobs and roles and things like that, that you'll just start seeing Gowdy sightings, kind of like Elvis, popping up everywhere. I saw him at the 7-Eleven. I saw his face in a piece of toast, that he will now become this figure who appears to us in our hour of need. So I salute Congressman Gowdy on his new quasi-mythical status. We're at the peak Gowdy mania, Greg.
That's interesting that he's simultaneously the choice of Boehner and the choice of House Conservatives. That's going to be an interesting...
Each side would be a little wary of each other. Alternatively, maybe he's just that great a guy, that principled, that respected, that he gets along with everybody, and maybe everybody likes him because of that. So
October 8th, Boehner has announced will be the leadership election, so a week from tomorrow. And we'll see how all of that shakes out. And Jim, good to have you back. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Greg. Always enjoy it. We'll see you tomorrow.
Jim Gowdy of National Review. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today, and be sure to tune in again on Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.